Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hometown Heroes. I'm Makenzie. Very excited tonight. We have a very special guest. She's currently a freshman at St. Joe's High School. She's been doing cheerleading since the time she was 6 years old. It is my honor to present to you Miss Makenzie Soldra. Makenzie, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
Thank you.
So Makenzie, the story I've always heard is you were about maybe 6 or 7 years old, and a flyer came out in school about a spring cheer clinic for Ansonia youth, and you saw it and wanted to give it a try.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you. I know your mother Kelly was a cheerleader. Did that have something to do with you wanting to try cheerleading, or was it just a simple fact that as you saw that flyer and saw some friends maybe doing it and you wanted to try it?
Yeah, well, I saw some friends doing it, and I just brought the flyer home, and I was like, Mom, I want to do cheer. So that's how it all started.
Right. So let me ask you, Makenzie, how was it initially when you first started doing cheerleading? You know, because like anything else, when you do it for the first, few days, couple weeks, it takes a little time to get used to the routines and stuff like that. Did you feel overwhelmed in the beginning, or did you like it right away?
I liked it right away. The coaches were welcoming, the girls on the team were welcoming, and it was just like really fun. And I didn't have a problem with going to practice or anything. Just went and had a good time.
Right. And let me ask you this. It's a lot of, commitment. Cheerleading lots of times is 5, 6 days a week. And then, of course, you got to maintain grades and stuff like that. Homework. Did you find that part challenging, or were you able to embrace it pretty well?
I was able to keep up on my work and do cheer, and I also did softball at the time. So I had practice every single night, and I just had to do my homework when I got home from school, or if I had time in school to do my homework. And I just had to keep up on all my work and,
Right.
balance.
Right. So let me ask you, for the first year, was it basic routines? They didn't try to throw a lot of stuff at you girls, right? It was just simple stuff in the beginning.
It wasn't simple, but for my first year doing it, I would say it was hard, but it wasn't like they didn't throw a lot of like stuff, but at the same time they did.
Right.
They had to they had to teach us stuff because half of us were all new learners, and cheer none of us did cheer before because it was our first time because we were on D8, so it was all new to us.
Right. And Makenzie, let me ask you, had your dad's, former football player, he goes to a lot of the football games, so I'm sure you went with him. When you would see the cheerleaders cheering, did you have an inkling then that maybe you wanted to try it? Would you look at them and say, I want to do this someday? How would that all go?
Yeah, some of my friends used to cheer in high school. I would go see them, and they would be cheering. So I looked up to them, and I was like, I really want to do this.
Right. So, Makenzie, one of the things that's a lot of fun for, a young kid when you're 7, 8, 9 years old is the football games that you get to cheer on Sunday mornings, Saturday evenings, stuff like that. Talk about that first year doing that. Was that a lot of fun? Did you enjoy that aspect a lot?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I got to cheer at a few of my dad's games, and I really enjoyed it because I was cheering on my father and his team, and it was just a really good experience.
Right. So let me ask you this, Makenzie. One thing about cheerleading as well is you girls have to work throughout the year to, go to regionals, go to nationals, stuff like that. It's a lot of work. And I always say this, that what impresses me the most is how the type of work that you girls will put in all year to basically do a 90-second routine when you get out there. So, I mean, 90 seconds of something is like, 7 days a week of working on stuff, hours and hours. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, we had to go to practice. We conditioned. We worked hard. We always had to be 100% in. We always had to show up to practice, no fooling around. It was just, we all had to be in it together and just do our best, and all had to come together when it was time to compete and go on that mat and do our thing.
Right. So, Makenzie, let's talk about when you were on the D8 white team. Big year for you, national champion and grand champion as well. And I believe you had the highest score. So first off, talk to me about, competing in the nationals, because I mean, that could be a little nerve-wracking. Talk about that experience, and then talk about, what it was like when you realized that you were the winner.
Well, it was my first big competition ever, and there was a lot of nerves. People were throwing up behind stage. Everyone was just nervous, and I wasn't expecting to see the bright lights and everything. I was just like, I don't know what I thought. I was just like, I was like blown away.
You were
I was
also
overwhelmed, and I didn't really expect it because I was so young, and it was my first big competition, and I didn't really know you could get grand champion. I knew you could win, but I didn't know you could get grand champion and all that. But it after competing, it felt so good to know that we did so good and to have a chance at winning, and it was just the best experience ever.
Right. And, for your first major competition to walk away with, 2 awards like that, national champ and grand champ, and the highest score, I mean, had to make you feel good. And I'm sure at that point you said to yourself, you want to continue to do this, that you saw something was magical about this and you wanted to keep it going.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Makenzie, let me ask you this. You girls work throughout the year to get to this point, stuff like that. It's not always fun in practice because the coaches have to be very demanding of you girls, because if something goes wrong, 2 things could happen. One, you get the routine wrong during the performances, and 2, somebody could really get hurt if you girls aren't, at your very best paying attention and stuff. So let me ask you, I mean, I'm sure that stuff is fun, but, the work that you have to put in sometimes, is it, a little tough, or do you just not even think about it? You enjoy it so much?
I enjoy it, but it's also really tough. We have to practice hard. We also condition. We tumble a lot. We have for the cheer I'm doing now, we have one of the coaches tumbles us, and we condition and tumble for an hour, and it's straight tumbling for an hour and also conditioning, because we have to train our bodies to be where we want to be with tumbling. And then the other hour, because we have 2-hour practices, we stunt and we jump and we condition again with our coaches.
Right. Now, is there one preference you like? I mean, do you like the jumping? Do you like the tumbling? Which one do you prefer the most out of what you do?
Personally, I like stunting the best,
Stunting,
because
yeah.
I feel I'm the best at that, and my coaches call me the Beast.
Right. So let me ask you this, Makenzie. And we'll get more to your relationship with your father, but I mean, seeing that he was a former Ansonia football player, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the history of Ansonia, and stuff like that. I mean, is that something else that motivated you too? Because you hear so much about the history there and stuff, that you really wanted to kind of, put your dent into what you do and stuff like that.
Yes, I always wanted. When I got that flyer, I was like, I really want to do this. And knowing my dad coaches in Ansonia and played in Ansonia, it made me want to do it even more. And I just felt like cheering with him at the games would be fun.
Right. So Mackenzie, fast forward a little bit. I think maybe it was your third year cheerleading. You were on the D10 red team, and again another national title. You know, it's hard enough to win one. You win one, to me, that's more than enough. But when you win multiple ones, that's a bonus. But it's still a great feeling. Talk about that second national championship because. And let me ask you this: nationals are usually in Florida, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell people not only about winning, but talk about the experience because you have to raise a lot of money just to get to Florida. That's a tough part too. It's more work that you have to put in. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we had to train, and going to the competition itself, I just remember we would all line up outside. Our coaches would play music and get head count of everyone to make sure everyone was there. And we had to meet like 2 hours or even more before we actually competed. And we just all were together, and then we just had to go and warm up. And I remember our nerves were just so like our nerves were just like we were overwhelmed because we knew that we wanted to win again because we won through the previous years, and we were three-time national champions. So
Yeah, I mean, and that's a feat in itself, something that no one could ever take away from you girls. And I mean, let me ask you, after you win the third one, I mean, does it get old to you, or that competition in you, that competitiveness in you, just wants to keep winning, right?
yeah, we wanted to come back the following year and win again. We just wanted to win like everything. We never wanted to lose. We never lost a competition until our fourth year. My team, I was on D12 Blue, and we were a young team, and we were going up. We were going up against older girls, and we were the youngest in the division, and it was hard because all these other girls like went for tumbling lessons, stunting, and
Yeah.
it was just like hard.
Right. Now, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you're going to lose, and not making it to nationals that year. I mean, did it make you appreciate the other times that you were able to go and win? I mean, because like anything else, sometimes you're going to have some highs and sometimes you're going to have some lows. So, did it make you appreciate it more?
Yes, we actually made it to nationals. We won all of our competitions up to
Right,
nationals.
but did not place, right?
We did not
Yeah,
place
right.
like we wanted to, but still the experience going, having fun with the team, just having fun with your team, like, and knowing you had fun is what's important.
Right. And Mackenzie, I think it was during this time as well. You started taking tumbling lessons for the USA Wildcats team, and while you would be there, you would watch the cheerleading team practice, right? And you wanted to try that as well. So talk about that because I mean, you were kind of doing double duty there for the last few years. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so some of my mom's friends and some of my friends were like, oh, she's going to start tumbling lessons there, then she's going to want to go there. And that's what actually happened. So I would go
Yeah.
there for tumbling lessons. And I remember my first tumbling lesson, I came out and I loved it. And I wanted to start cheering there, but I couldn't do Aunt Sonia cheer and Wildcats at the same time because they conflicted. And I couldn't like do both of them at the same time because when my comp schedule was for Aunt Sonia, I had practice for Wildcats.
Right. Mackenzie, the other thing I kind of talked about it earlier, but it's not easy to keep your grades up when you're, doing all this stuff. And I believe you went to Assumption School throughout elementary. And I mean, it's a competitive school. You have to really work hard and do well. And I mean, you were able to maintain honors, stuff like that. So just talk about trying to balance both school and cheerleading because when school's over, you're out there for 3-4 hours doing cheerleading, doing tumbling. Talk about that a little bit.
So I was up late at night. I wouldn't get home from practice until 9:30, and I had to study. Like if I had a test the next day, or if I had homework, because I would be at practice for Aunt Sonia probably from like 5, and I would not get home till 9:30 with Wildcats also. So
Right.
it was hard, but I loved cheer that I didn't want to give up cheer for school. And I also just had to balance my grades and pay attention in school and stay up late and do what I had to do to still do both.
Right. And let me ask you, I'm sure the all-star cheerleading was very different from Ansonia Youth Cheer. Um, let me ask you though, like doing Ansonia Youth Cheer all those years though, I'm sure it gave you, the skills and the foundation you needed as well to be successful at all-star cheer, correct?
Yes, I learned some skills from Aunt Sonia, so that helped me when I went over to All Star, and the tumbling lessons also helped me to get where I am now. So if I didn't have the tumbling lessons, I don't know if I would be where I am with All Star right now.
Right. And you know what's funny, Mackenzie, is a lot of people look at tumbling, they may not take it seriously, but it's very hard to do. I mean, it's not easy. You really do have to be skilled at it and you really have to work at it. So, I mean, just talk about like the, you know, what that's like doing tumbling and the, challenging part of that.
Yeah, so conditioning comes in with all the tumbling. You have to train your body every day. I started off with back walkovers and now I'm working whips. I know you don't know what that is, but it's basically like a high back handspring with no hands. And it's just, you have to train. Like, you have to train every day to get where you want to get.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, you've been doing USA Wildcats 5 or 6 years now. I mean, you've
Six
been doing
years,
it a
yes.
long time. Yeah. And you know, your teams over the years, I believe, have went to what's called the Summit 3 or 4 times. And your first year going there, I think you were a level 3 international, and you placed 17th in the world, I believe,
Yes, that's
out of
correct.
64 teams. So that's somebody was running a Boston Marathon and they placed 17 out of 64 runners. Granted, there's a lot more. I mean, that is very impressive. So I mean, did you feel good, knowing that, like, your first time going to that summit, that you were able to do something like that?
Yes, it was my first time going to Summit, and it was a great experience. And I didn't think we were going to do as good as we did. But after day one, we were sixth out of 36 teams. And day two, after 64 teams, we came in 17th in the world. And that's a huge accomplishment because not most teams make it to day two. And my team, we made it to day two. And we just trained over the season and worked hard
Right.
after a rough
Mackenzie.
season.
Right. Mackenzie, I talked about the work that you girls have to put in, and the work the coaches have to put in to prepare you girls. So just talk to me about some of the coaches you've had over the years and how they've been very beneficial to you as not only a performer but as a person as well.
So my coaches over the years, my first year doing cheer, none of them had kids in the program. None of them don't have none of them have kids in the program. So it's just their time, and it's like my dad. He coaches and he doesn't have a kid in the program, and it just shows how much they love the sport and love doing it. And all of my coaches are so nice and they have to be tough at times, but outside of the gym, they're so nice and they just do what's best for us.
Right. You girls advanced in 2020 for the U17 level 4, but unfortunately, COVID put a stop to that. You weren't able to compete. Talk to me a little bit, Mackenzie, how much COVID affected you personally, because I mean, it took a lot away from, I always think of those high school kids who lost out on their senior year of high school. But just talk to me about, I think you were a seventh grader when COVID hit. Just talk to me a little bit about how it impacted you.
Well, I lost a whole season of cheer and we were going. I remember our last competition was our last one and we got second place and we got our bid to go to Florida. And I just remember being so excited to go. And then a month later, the world shut down and we couldn't go. And we stopped practices, we stopped everything. And we all just were so in shock. And we all wanted to go so bad, but we couldn't because of COVID. And it was just a big effect on all of us. I could probably be on a higher level team if COVID didn't hit. I could be working different skills if COVID never hit. So it affected us a lot.
Right. And let me ask you, during COVID, Mackenzie, obviously you couldn't meet for practice, you couldn't do anything. Were you able to continue like working off on your own, like to keep yourself fresh and stuff like that? I mean, did you find yourself out in the backyard a lot, like
Yes, I
practicing
have
just,
tumble tracks and I would bring them out like every day and just keep practicing tumbling because if I didn't, I would probably lose some of my skills. And we would also like video chat and to condition, to jump, and just to meet with our team and see how
yeah.
everyone's doing.
Mackenzie, I mentioned the coaches, but one of the biggest rewarding things about cheer is the friendships you make, and when you're having great moments, you have your teammates there, and when you're having some low moments, they're there to pick you up. You girls have each other. Just talk about some of the teammates you've had over the years and how important they've been to you.
Well, most of my friends are from cheer and they're my best friends and they mean a lot to me. And at practices, when times are tough, we're all there for each other and we hang out outside of cheer. We just, some of my friends, they are just my best friends and they mean so much to me.
Right.
I have friends
And
from other gyms.
Right. And that's the thing too, Mackenzie, is again, the winning national titles is awesome and it's, so fun, but doing it with these girls that you're friends with, I mean, you have these memories forever. Someday your kids are probably going to cheer, and you could look back on these memories and, kind of reminisce with one another. So, I mean, that part of it right there is what makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mackenzie, let me ask you, after a year of not competing, I think in February of 2021, you girls finally resumed again. You got back out there, and I think, you competed at another summit. Now, it may not have been the outcome that you girls would have liked, but you were competing again in front of a live audience. So, talk about the 2021 summit a little bit.
It was our first live competition. We unfortunately we were supposed to go to a live competition before that. It was just a regular competition, but there was a COVID outbreak, so we couldn't go. So that competition was supposed to be our first live one, but we couldn't go to that one. So Summit was our first competition in a year, and that was in April. And it was just, we all wanted to have fun no matter what the outcome was. We all were just happy we were competing on the mat and we're all together. And we just wanted to live our lives. And like one of my coaches always said, you never know when it's your last time competing on that mat. And that year, we just all felt that.
Right. And Mackenzie, one of the things that I find remarkable too about whether girls do dance, they do cheer, color garden, whatever it might be, is the job the mothers do, with their daughters because they have to make sure, the makeup is proper, that their hair is done right. They put a lot of time in with their kids to make sure that when they get to these competitions, that they're, ready for everything. So talk about your mother, Kelly, a little bit because, she's been a tremendous help for you. It's definitely a big support system for you throughout your career as cheerleader.
Yes. So my first year cheering, I remember my mom not knowing how to do my hair. So she had to ask one of my coaches to help because she didn't know how to put the curlers in because we had to put curlers in. And I just remember she was freaking out because she didn't know what to do. So, and then my first all star cheer, she did not know how to do makeup and she had red lipstick all around my mouth. And I remember I looked like a clown. It was so bad.
Right. But definitely has always been by your side and always supportive and that's what I always look at. People sometimes forget the type of work the parents put in as well to make sure that you girls are prepared for this.
Yeah. My mom, she used to help me with my makeup and my hair, but now I could do it all myself as I gotten older. So,
Right. So Mackenzie, I think it was December, the first weekend of December, you girls competed in Trenton, New Jersey, and you took first place and got another bid to the summit. So talk about that a little bit, because again, I mean, you girls don't just compete, you girls win, which I find, so impressive. I mean, it's like, you know, just when you think you've outdone yourself, you girls continue to surprise. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, it was our first competition, so we didn't know what the outcome was going to be because we had girls missing because of COVID. So we just all went out there. We were like, okay, just have fun. Like, it doesn't matter the outcome. And we have many other competitions, but we all like worked together and we hit and we did great both the days. And we were just so proud of ourselves and we won.
Right. And Makenzie, the other, unbelievable thing about you and what you do, and the girls on your team as well, but I'm just talking about you for a second here, is when you don't have Aunt Sonia cheer, you would be at All Stars. And I don't think you got home sometimes till 10 o'clock at night. So think about your day. You're going to school for 7 hours a day. Then you go home maybe briefly, but then you're right back out there, cheer practice, tumbling, you name it, and you're not home till 10 o'clock. That's a big commitment for a kid who's 11, 12, 13 years old. I mean, you got to factor in you're probably hungry at times too. I mean, did you ever get a little overwhelmed, or you just enjoy it so much you're not even really thinking about it too much?
I enjoyed it, but I had to eat in the car, change in the car on my way to practices from school.
Right. And Makenzie, let me ask you this. If the time comes someday, I mean, you're in high school right now, and we'll get to that in a few minutes, but do you ever think about being like a junior assistant coach or whatever they're called there, or do you ever think about getting into coaching someday with cheerleading? Or what would you like to coach someday?
Yeah, I would like to give back to the program. I would love to coach when I get older.
Right. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. When the weather's bad, you have to go practice in the gym. That's not fun at all. I mean, it's not easy and stuff like that. So what's the difference from being outdoors and being indoors? I mean, which one? Obviously, you prefer to be outdoors, but I mean, are you girls able to get the preparation you need to get in when you're indoors, or is it kind of tough?
For All-Star, we don't do outdoors because we have spring mats. So we need the springs and the mats. So we never practice outside.
Right.
But when I cheered for Aunt Sonia, we would practice outside and do motions and the dance, sometimes walk around the parking lot doing our dance.
Right. And Makenzie, you might have practice, say, 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekend for Aunt Sonia cheer, and then you got to go right and compete with all stars later. So I mean, you're going from practice and you're going from competing. Sometimes you might be competing, going to practice. I mean, you're constantly just competing, and you're constantly cheerleading all the time. I mean, what drives you to continue to do this day in and day out? Because it is a lot of it is a commitment for somebody who's only 14 years old. I mean, it's a lot of dedication and a lot of time that you put in, that you're giving up a lot of your free time as well. So what drives you to continue to do it?
The love for the sport. Like, I just always loved cheer ever since I was little and wanted to start doing it. Like, bringing home that flyer, being around the team and being around the coaches just makes me love it even more, and I just love it.
Right. Makenzie, one of the things you brought up earlier was how you enjoyed cheering the games that your dad coached. And I'm sure, that first game you got to cheer when he was coaching had to be something you'll remember forever. But I mean, just talk about that a little bit, because I mean, you and your dad have a great relationship. I mean, I look at that one video I was watching of you, and I mean, nobody was more pumped up than he was. I thought it was Aunt Sonia beating, Bloomfield in the state championship game. He was so excited. So just talk about the relationship with him, because, he's definitely one of your biggest fans, if not your biggest fan.
Yeah, he sure is. He wore a hat to the competition, and he just goes crazy. Like, he always stands in front of me, because we always just he stands in front of me, and then I look at him before I start competing. And I just love going to his football games and cheering him on. And he cheers me on, and he just loves cheer as much as I do. And I love football as just as much as he loves football too.
Right. And, Makenzie, it says a lot about the fact that, he loves football. He loves Ansonia football, but he also loves Makenzie Soldra more than anything. So, when you get right down to it, if it's football or Makenzie Soldra and cheerleading's going to win every time. So, I mean, that has to be a great feeling when you're seeing him jump up and going crazy and stuff like that, because here you're looking at this former all-state football player, who looks like this real tough guy. And when you get right down to it, he's the lovable giant when it comes to his daughter.
Yeah, he's a big teddy bear.
Yeah, you know. So let me ask you this, Makenzie. Eighth grade comes. Did you know, like maybe seventh grade, that you wanted to go to St. Joe's? How did that decision come for you to kind of apply to St. Joe's?
Well, I was looking at Holy Cross, and I went to Holy Cross's open house, and it didn't like it didn't feel like home. Like I just didn't feel like comfortable there. So then I was like, all right, I'm gonna take the entrance exam for St. Joe's, and I did, and I went to the open house, and it felt like home, like it felt like a family. So I knew from that point on that that's where I wanted to go, and it was probably through like half eighth grade year when I decided I wanted to go there.
Right. And, Makenzie, it's not just about applying there. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You need recommendations. You have to write essays and stuff like that. So talk to me. I mean, was there any stress there when you were applying there? I mean, did you feel stressed, or were you so anxious to get into St. Joe's that you were willing to do whatever it took?
There was a lot of stress because I was trying to balance school, and I had to go take the 4-hour entrance exam, and I had to write essays, and I had to get recommendations from my teachers. And there was a lot of stress between eighth grade year doing my work, studying for finals, and taking the entrance exam for St. Joe's.
Right. And, Makenzie, another thing, again, I would assumption did some distance learning as well. So, I mean, you had a real tough eighth grade year as well, because, when school started, everybody started going to school, then everybody got shut down for a couple of months, and kids had to do distance learning. So, I mean, that's not easy to do either, trying to do work on a computer and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's really a credit to you that, you were able to still maintain your grades, do the essays and get accepted to St. Joe's, because you had a real tough 2 years of school with the distance learning.
Yeah, well, we were only online for 2 weeks when my teacher had it and another student in the class had it. And we had to be on virtual showing our camera. We had to have the school uniform on, and we just continued working like we were in the classroom.
Right. So, talk to me a little bit about what the moment was like, though, when you got accepted to St. Joe's. Because even though maybe you kind of thought you would get in, until like you get that letter that says you've been, selected to go. I mean, it had to be a great thrill when you found out you got accepted.
Yeah, I was so excited. I just remember my friend, she got the letter before me because she got her mail before me. So I was just waiting, and I was so anxious, and I was so excited when she got in. So I was like waiting, like I was so anxious to get my letter. But when I opened it, it was the best feeling ever.
Right. So let me ask you this. I mean, were you able to cheer for St. Joe's this year, or do you have to wait till sophomore year? How did the freshman year, how has freshman year went so far? I know it's only been a few months, but
So I was talking to the coach, and she said I couldn't do All-Star cheer and St. Joe's cheer because I just wanted to cheer at the football games and the basketball games for St. Joe's, but I unfortunately couldn't do both. I had to pick one because they also compete, so I had to be on the the compete team, and I had to cheer at the games. I couldn't just do one or the other, so I had to
right.
pick, and I chose All-Star.
Right. And I mean, you want to finish this all-star out. I mean, this is something you've done for 6 years now. And, it's not something that you're just willing to walk away from.
No, I want to do St. Joe's cheer, but I also want to still stick with All-Star cheer. So it's going to be a tough decision if I want to change or if I don't.
Right. Now, let me ask you, are you doing anything else at St. Joe's as far as sports? I mean, are you doing anything in the spring, or are you going to strictly be cheerleading?
No, because it conflicts with cheer because cheer is all year round. So anything that I do, it conflicts with cheer. So it would be hard.
Right. And how is, academic wise, how has it been for you so far at St. Joe's? I mean, I think like anything else, there's probably been some COVID outbreaks. People have had to quarantine. So, I mean, it's been a challenging year, but it's also been one that you're enjoying so far.
Yes, it's an adjustment going from a small school to a big school. And my grades, they're great. I have A's and B's right now. Um, and it's just the first week or two, a month, it was an adjustment. I had to get used to my surroundings and getting used to the teachers.
Right. So let me ask you this, Mackenzie. Like anything else, if somebody plays basketball, there's always a player they idolize, football, same thing. Let me ask you, are there any like cheerleaders, that you kind of emulate or idolize that you watch on TV at all? I mean, do you find yourself watching a lot of those performances on YouTube and stuff like that?
I do. I usually look up to like the bigger teams,
Yeah.
the older teams. I watch it on YouTube. I watch Worlds, which is a bigger event than Summit, but it's like the same, but for older teams. I watch it and I watch practices sometimes.
Right. Mackenzie, I had a cheerleader on from Massac not too long ago. And one of the things she said to me is, she'll watch the movies and she'll critique so many things they do wrong on there because they're not doing it right. I mean, have you watched any of those cheerleading movies and said, okay, she's not doing this right? This is not how you do this. I mean, just talk about that a little bit because sometimes the movies don't always get the routines right.
Yeah, I feel like they give Cheer a bad name. Like these Lifetime movies, they make to seem like Cheer like it's different than how it is. And like some movies I critique also. And yeah.
Right. So Mackenzie, I brought it up earlier about you and your dad when you're cheering for his games and stuff like that. And while you've won a national title, you've gotten to see him win a state championship. You've gotten to be there, right on the field when that's happened. So, again, those are the moments that, no matter what goes on with the wins and losses, it's those moments like that that are priceless. I mean, just talk about that moment when his team won the state title. You got to celebrate with him. You were cheerleading. I mean, what was that feeling like? Because that had to be just very special for the two of you to be able to share that moment.
Yeah, it was a special feeling. I was so happy for him. And I just couldn't be any prouder because I know like he comes home from practices sometimes and he's stressed about a game. He's watching film every single day and he just breaks it down and he's on his phone texting with his coaches, like doing other things for the kids. He's always at practice trying to make these kids better and prepare
Right.
them for high school.
Right. And let me ask you, I mean, you're still doing All Stars, but obviously Ansonia Chair has ended. I mean, do you miss that at all? I mean, did you miss it this year, especially, not being out there cheering and stuff like that? Because, that was a big part of your childhood right there.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've done it, Sonia Cheer. I do miss it. I miss the girls that I cheered with because some of them came from different towns. So I do miss it. I miss the friendships and I miss hanging out with the girls that I used to hang out with every day.
Right. So Mackenzie, let me ask you this. What is the goal for you as far as these next 3 years of high school, as far as cheer goes? Obviously, you said you would like to cheer for St. Joe's. You're still doing All Stars, but you just personally, what is the goal for you in these next 3 years? What do you really want to accomplish out of cheerleading?
I just want to get better and grow and be the best I can.
Right. And again, like I talked about grades and you had to do it at Assumption, so you're no stranger to it. But you mentioned it how, St. Joe's is a little stressful because, it's definitely a lot of work, a lot of homework, a lot of time putting into your studies, and then you're going to tumbling, you're going to All Stars. So I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot of work, but it doesn't seem like that bothers you. It seems like it only motivates you more to continue to keep going.
Yeah, I like the challenge. Like I like getting challenged. I don't like it coming easy for me. I like the challenge and I just have to do my best. I try in every single class, and I just know that I could do the best I can.
Right. Makenzie, let me ask you, if you were like giving advice to a kid who's maybe 8 or 9 years old, they started cheerleading at 7. And with cheerleading too, I didn't even mention this, but you give up a lot of your summers too, because come, August 1st, you're back out there. It's hot. You got to be out there every night in the beginning. Those first couple of weeks, kind of seem very, stressful, but yet these girls put in the work. You've obviously put in the work. You know what needs to be done. But I mean, what advice would you give them if they were saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to continue to do this. It's just too much of my time to give up.
Well, I would just say do it. It's worth it. Like, it will pay off in the end. If you really love the sport and you really wanted to do it, you will manage your time and you will get it done.
Right. Makenzie, we talked about different national championships you've won, regionals, all that stuff, the competitions. Are there any like cool moments or any stories you could share that like, you look back and you say, wow, that was a great weekend, never mind the winning, but just the experience and stuff like that. Were there any tournament or competitions that really stand out to you?
Yeah, so when I cheered for Aunt Sonia, after we won the national championship, my coaches said and the parents said that if we won, they would jump in the pool at the hotel. So with their clothes on. So everyone jumped in the pool after we won, and it was just
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
yeah, it was so
And that had
cool.
to be so much fun for like the the performers to see, because parents are just goofing around. Parents get to be kids at that point. And I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing too, Makenzie. And I talked about it earlier, but obviously the parents are just as, they get a big thrill out of seeing you girls do good as much as you girls do as well. I mean, when you girls are doing something great, they take great pride in it, and it's definitely as rewarding as it is for you girls. It's equally rewarding for them to see their daughters, doing what they love.
Yeah. It's like the parents are just as probably as nervous as we are watching their kids. Like, they're so nervous that they want us to hit just like we want ourselves to hit.
Makenzie, when I was talking about you and your father, Greg, and how you love watching his team compete, he loves watching you cheer. I always think back to the movie Remember the Titans, and how the little girl in that movie was critiquing her dad's practices or his games and stuff like that. Do you ever find yourself in the car or at home saying, Dad, why'd you call that play? Or, Dad, you guys should have done this. I mean, do you critique him ever?
Yeah. So I go up to Nolan Field and I walk the track and I see him coaching his team, and I'm like, when he comes home, I'm like, Dad, why don't you have them do more conditioning? And he's just like, Kens, I can't. Like, and
I'm
I'm
sure the
like,
players, I'm sure his players don't want to hear that. They're like, no,
yeah,
don't tell him to have us do more. But it's really cool. Like when I see that it obviously he's going to be thrilled to see what you're doing. But the fact that you're a young kid, a young teenager, and you love seeing him do what he loves. I mean, it's just another really impressive thing about you, and says a lot about you as not only a person but as a daughter as well.
yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Makenzie, let me ask you, when high school does end, and again, you're only a freshman, so you've got a few years to think about it. I mean, do you want to continue cheerleading? I mean, do you want to cheer in college somewhere? I mean, what are the goals as far as cheerleading goes after high school?
I want to continue cheering in college. It would be a dream to just be at the football games and cheering, like at NFL school. Like, I would just want to be there for like the big games, like the crowd, just like watching the games on TV and seeing the cheerleaders there. It's just like really.
Yeah. And
My favorite college is Alabama, so.
did Dad tell you to say that? But let me ask you this. Like, obviously every kid has that dream. I mean, is there a certain NFL team in the back of your mind you'd say, wow, I would love to cheer for them someday? Or I mean, is there any one team?
Yeah, the Giants.
The Giants, yeah, I mean, that's a good answer. A lot of people say the Cowboys. So, but
Yeah, my dad and I are huge Giants fans. My mom's a Cowboys fan.
Oh boy, that can't be a great night in the house. Let me ask you this, Makenzie. You know, you've done so many things, you've accomplished so much, and you're still only 14 years old. But what would you say has been the most rewarding thing about cheerleading to you, if you had to pick one thing?
Friendship and the coaches. How I became so close with the coaches and my friends. Like all my friends who I have today, I wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Right. And let me ask you, now that you've been at St. Joe's, did any of your friends, are any of them going to St. Joe's? Have you been able to make new friendships? I mean, how is that experience going?
Yes, I have a lot of friends. I have older friends that are sophomores, juniors, seniors. So I have kids from like other schools, other high schools that are my friends, and I made a lot of friendships at St. Joe's.
Right. So, Makenzie, before we go, again, I asked you what advice you would give to an 8-year-old about, keep it going and stuff like that. But let me ask you, just like somebody who's, cheerleading, or they're going through a rough time, maybe they're hurt, or maybe they're not doing what they would hope they would do, and it's taking some time and stuff like that, but they want to keep going. What advice would you give them, as far as never giving up and stuff?
To keep pushing and don't give up. You could just keep pushing and do your best.
Right. Well, Makenzie, this was a lot of fun. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Number one, congratulations on everything you've accomplished. I mean,
Thank you.
when I look at this list, I am just blown away about the stuff you've done in such a short time. So congratulations for that. But also,
Thank you.
seeing how you are as a person is what really stood out to me tonight. You're not only a great performer, but you're also an even better person. So I really do applaud you, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, folks, we just spent nearly an hour getting to know Makenzie Soldra. A couple of things I learned by talking to her. Number one, she's always about her teammates first, and she's about her friends first as well. She always puts herself second and wants to see her teammates and her friends succeed more than anything else. You see this remarkable young woman, and you just know that the best is yet to come for her, which is very impressive when you think about everything she's already accomplished. Her story is just beginning. Her chapter's still got a ways to go. But one thing is for sure, that when it comes to being a success, Makenzie Soldra is on her way, and we can't wait to see what the future has in store for her. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.